What is going on with the Milwaukee Bucks? A team that is 30-13, has the third best record in the NBA, just fired their head coach Adrian Griffin, and I think this is a shock to a lot of people, including myself. Reports that came out said that he wasn't getting this team to gel fast enough and that he lost the locker room. Well, later on Tuesday night, the Bucks hired Doc Rivers, former 76ers coach, a guy that was doing color commentary for ESPN, will now be the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks to try and help lead them to the title. Now, looking on the outside in, you see that this team has the third best record in the NBA. They're 30-13. They have Giannis. They have Dame. What seems to be the issue here? Well, the Milwaukee Bucks haven't exactly been elite to their standards. So far, they've had the easiest strength of schedule, and they have the hardest remaining strength of schedule in this second half of the regular season. So now they're about to be tested, and this is when their season really begins. On the defensive side of the ball, this team is absolutely pathetic, and it starts in the backcourt. Damian Lillard, a guy that's never been known for his defense, is a pretty significant downgrade in the backcourt from a guy like Drew Holiday. Then you look at Malik Beasley, a guy that the Bucks got from the Lakers. He's also been a terrible defender this season, and it's resulted in the Bucks absolutely getting torched on the defensive side of the ball. They're currently giving up the 6th most points per game in the NBA. They have the 8th worst defensive efficiency in the NBA and the 9th worst defensive rating in the NBA. Well, Caden, how is that a big problem when their offense is so unbelievable? Putting up the 2nd most points per game, having the best offensive efficiency, and the 2nd best offensive rating. Well, when you look at when they play teams like the Indiana Pacers, who are currently 4-1 against them on the season, they've struggled against teams that play fast and teams with really good offenses, and it's understandably so. For instance, looking at the Indiana Pacers and a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, who's so great at dishing the ball, so great at pushing the pace, he's really been effective against the Milwaukee Bucks. With this big of a change halfway through the season, I'm not sure how Milwaukee's going to react. Now, you look at the reports that came out of why Adrian Griffin was fired, that the team wasn't gelling fast enough for the upper management's liking, and it's understandably so. You look at Damian Lillard's numbers, he hasn't been as efficient as he was in years past with Portland, and we haven't seen his points per game even come close to sniffing what he was putting up last year, and they've had some pretty high peaks and valleys where you see them go on 3-game losing streaks, and then you see them go 8-2 in their next 10 ball games. And the Milwaukee Bucks have been a very confusing team this entire season, and I've always felt like they've had red flags popping up. So what's their next move? Do they try and go be aggressive at the trade deadline, maybe go pick up a guy like DeJounte Murray and Alex Caruso, who they've been rumored to potentially get? But I think getting a guy like Alex Caruso would make this team very dangerous, adding him at the number 2 next to Damian Lillard, giving them a good perimeter defender, a guy that's an elite backcourt defender more importantly, because if they can tie together their defense with how good their offense has been, we know that when it comes to postseason time, Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo will show up. DeJounte Murray, I think, would be another interesting piece. I don't exactly love him in Milwaukee because I think when you look at him as a raw player, he's not exactly an elite scorer or a great plug-and-play guy when you're looking for somebody who maybe won't be taking the ball away from Damian Lillard and Giannis. He is an upgrade defensively, though, from Malik Beasley, but I think they'd have to give up too much for him. I personally like the thought of Alex Caruso a lot more, but I think the Bucks are at a really interesting point in the season right now. We're more than halfway through the year. They just fired their head coach. Their team hasn't been gelling well, and they stink on the defensive side of the ball, and now they're going to get their toughest test throughout this second half of the season where they face the hardest strength of schedule remaining. And I think it's fair to ask yourself right now, is Doc Rivers better than what Adrian Griffin was halfway through the year, making this big of a change? I mean, for goodness sakes, Doc Rivers has only won 1 title in his entire career. We've seen him fail with the 76ers. We've seen him fail with the Clippers, and it's not like they didn't have good rosters both of those times. So I don't think adding Doc Rivers just suddenly makes them crazy title favorites. I'm personally not sold on this Milwaukee team at all right now because of how bad their defense is. I understand they can put up points like crazy, but I think when you play a tough team in the playoffs like the Boston Celtics, who are great defensively, who are great offensively, they're going to face some real trouble. And then you look at the Indiana Pacers, who smoked them this year, who are 4-1. They're sitting back pretty thinking, okay, Tyrese Halliburton's banged up right now, but we just made this move to go get Pascal Siakam. We've proven that we could beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Why not try and make a move to go beat the Boston Celtics? I really don't think any team truly fears the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference right now. Then you look at the move that the Miami Heat made on Tuesday. They traded for Terry Rozier, got got rid of Kyle Lowry, but added another scorer to pair up with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, a Miami Heat team that took down the Milwaukee Bucks last year in the playoffs. I'm really telling you right now, nobody in the Eastern Conference truly fears the Milwaukee Bucks, and they see them crumbling to their core right now. If Bucks fans think that this discomfort within the locker room, within the management is just going to suddenly go away by hiring Doc Rivers, you're absolutely crazy. And I think Milwaukee is on the ropes big time right now, even though they're 30-13, have the third best record in the NBA, and they're second in the Eastern Conference. Having Dame and Giannis is going to help you get to that good of a record, and that's expected of those two. These defensive problems and all this uncertainty, I think, is really going to hurt them in the postseason. Milwaukee is not a real threat in the Eastern Conference. I'm Caden Kubler, and that's my take.